Hey, what's up? Stephanie, the English coach here from EnglishFulltime.com. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I do not teach tongue twisters to my students and I don't recommend them for pronunciation practice. Now, if you are new here, welcome. As I said, my name is Stephanie and I make videos, content, and courses for intermediate and advanced English language learners. Okay, so first of all, I know a lot of people love tongue twisters and a lot of teachers use them in their classes. In fact, I used to be one of these teachers way back in the day when I taught private and group classes online. I had a class where I taught tongue twisters and I thought it was so much fun. And anyways, today I wouldn't use this methodology with my students. And so I'm going to break that down and explain why. I know people say that tongue twisters are really fun, they're a good challenge, and even actors and public speakers use them. So I'm going to get into all of this. And at the end, I'm even going to show you some material that I use with my students. And I'm going to tell you about what I do instead to teach pronunciation, what I believe is a better way to learn pronunciation. Okay, so the first reason I don't teach tongue twisters to my students and I don't recommend them for pronunciation practice is because basic pronunciation is hard enough. Mastering the individual sounds in English, learning how to say certain words, like take a word with 5 syllables and try to say it, right? It's not that easy. And so if you're struggling with the basics still, then it doesn't make sense to go over the top and practice and work on something like tongue twisters, because this brings me to my next point. Tongue twisters are difficult even for native speakers. So imagine we're in a classroom and I'm in the front and I say, hey everybody, welcome to class. Today we're going to work on improving your pronunciation and we're going to practice saying things that are even difficult for me to say. It's like, wait, how does that help you? It doesn't, because if it's difficult for me to say, it means it's going to be really incredibly difficult for an English learner to say. And there are other things that you can work on that will be a much better use of your time. It'll be much more efficient and much more productive for you. Also, when you are working on tongue twisters, they make your mouth very tense and they make your body tense. And that is the opposite of what you want when you are working on your pronunciation. You want to be relaxed from head to toe. Tongue twisters are not natural. They just aren't. And you can tell because the way they tie up your tongue when you're speaking. But basically, the words are placed in such an unnatural way. It's like it makes you mess up. It makes me mess up. And I don't like working with any kind of material in my courses or my programs that is not natural, normal, everyday type English. Like if you can't use it for the real world, I see no point in studying it or practicing it. There's got to be some way that it's useful in the real world. And that way, when whatever you're doing in the classroom will also benefit you outside the classroom. Tongue twisters are very isolated. It's like, if you want to do it for fun, I think great, go ahead. But when it comes to actually working on your pronunciation, there are much better methods, and I'll talk about those at the end. So next, tongue twisters, because they're so difficult, they can easily trigger feelings of frustration, overwhelm, and defeat in students. And that is the opposite of what I, as a teacher, want to foster in my students. Students will have those feelings anyways with things that are much easier. So might as well help them overcome those things that are much easier so they can quickly get to the confidence, quickly get to the feelings of success, and feel like they have achieved something. Next, yes, actors and public speakers use tongue twisters, but they do not use them in the way that language learners have been using tongue twisters or trying to use tongue twisters. When you are an actor or a public speaker, you're using the tongue twister to warm up your voice. Okay, you're not to practice pronunciation, to simply warm up your voice and to warm up your tongue, warm up your lips, and you're practicing your diction and your enunciation, and you're making sure that your words are very clear and you're articulating words very, very clearly and precisely that you already know how to say perfectly. You can say these words absolutely perfectly, okay, every single time. They're not difficult for you, but they're put in word orders that are more difficult so that you can focus on your diction, so you can focus on your enunciation, so you can focus on your articulation, right? That's the purpose of tongue twisters as it relates to public speaking and actors. which is something that is totally different when you are learning a language. You're not working on your enunciation and your diction when you're still working on your pronunciation. It's like you got to work on your pronunciation first, then you can strengthen your articulation, then you can work on your diction and your enunciation and all that other stuff. But first, you got to get the pronunciation down. So that point of like, hey, even actors and public speakers use it. It's like, yes, but they use it for this reason, not for that reason. So finally, I will admit tongue twisters can be very fun if you enjoy them. But for me, it's more like it helps give you a good laugh. It helps you lighten up, loosen up, not take yourself so seriously. It's almost like you're supposed to fail. You're supposed to fail and laugh at it so you can just loosen up and move on to something else. But yes, you can work on it, get good, etc. But when it comes to pronunciation, I would say tongue twisters are not what you need. They can be fun, they can be funny, they perhaps can be helpful, but it's not what you need. And there are better, easier, much more productive ways to work on your pronunciation. And so I'm going to talk to you about those now. And this is what I do with my students. So when I teach pronunciation, for me, I am building skills in my students. The first thing we have to do is work on the sounds, the individual sounds, because those are the building blocks of the language. You have to learn the sounds, master the sounds. Once you have the sounds down, you move to small words and you practice the sounds in small words that are word pairs that are very similar, like man, men, cap, cup, cop. You have to be able to say all of these words that are very similar differently. Now that is a challenge. That is a tongue twister for many students, and yet it's simple, basic English. It's not high level anything. That's my point when I say you don't have to make it harder than it already is, because basic English already is hard for most students. So you go from sounds to short words to longer words. Why longer words? Because then you need to practice the word stress, reducing certain syllables inside the word, stressing other syllables, getting the stress in the correct place, working on the rhythm inside the words. So you go from sounds to small words to big words and then to phrases, because you have to practice connecting your speech, reducing words in between words, working on the rhythm, and then adding in that intonation so you can work on the pitch as well and how you communicate with your pitch. And then after you have all those pieces in place, you are ready to really study content in depth and to do monologues, to shadow entire paragraphs or to shadow dialogues and do all these things. You will have everything in place because you will have built up to it. So that is what makes the most sense to me. That is what I do with my students. Knowing everything that I know now about studying languages, teaching languages, I find this to be the most effective and the most productive thing to do with students. It's like you start small and you build and make it bigger and harder and more of a challenge. But the crazy thing is, even starting small, you're already starting with a challenge, because some students, just making the distinction between the I and the E sound is a challenge, or the A and the E sound, that's a challenge, or the and the sound, that's a challenge, right? So start small, then build on top of every skill, every new skill, and soon you will be able to speak clearly. You will have control of your mouth, control of the sounds that come out of it, control of your words. You will be able to speak with natural English rhythm, etc., all without ever needing to practice or study a tongue twister. Okay, so with all of that said, the closest I've ever come to creating anything tongue twister like with my students is through original short stories that I make for them. And I'm actually going to show you part of one today. So for my students that struggle with the TH sound, I wrote a story for them. It's 4 paragraphs. I'm going to share 1 paragraph with you. But everything about the story is natural. The way that it's written, the phrases I use, the words that I use, the structure, the word order, it's all 100% natural English. You'll be able to practice your rhythm, your intonation, the sounds, etc., but in a natural way, not in an unnatural way. So the story is called Day at the Theater. I will show you the first paragraph. And inside this little paragraph, I used the TH sound 40 times in the words. And I did this on purpose because this material here for my students is to help them drill the TH sound, but drill it in a natural way. So I'll read it And I want you to know that this is not a tongue twister for native speakers. I had other native English speakers read this and they were able to fly through it. You'll see how I read it. They were able to read through it just fine because it's not a tongue twister. It just has sort of an abnormal amount of the TH sound in it, but there's nothing that should mess up your tongue beyond the TH sound if you're struggling with it. Okay, so day at the theater. That day, Ethan thought the weather would be anything but life-threatening. The weatherman said it's just going to be a thunderstorm, he thought. That's nothing. So, rather than be bothered by the thick clouds gathering beneath the sun, he jumped in his 1973 Thunderbird and enthusiastically drove to the theater for their bi-monthly Throwback Thursday movie marathon. This time, they were showing The Godfather, Gone with the Wind, and some pathetic thriller about a psychopath. Okay, so did you see how easily I read through that? I didn't stumble over anything. If you struggle with a sound in English, doing something like this would be really effective for you. Working with natural sentences, naturally structured paragraphs, stories, etc., or phrases. If you don't even have to do this much, you can just choose a phrase like thought the weather, thought the weather, thought the weather. Yeah, I thought the weather would be better today. He thought the weather would be colder. He thought the weather would be whatever, right? That's a phrase that you could practice here and then turn around and use in in real life. Another one is that's nothing. That's nothing. Or rather than be bothered, right? You have the TH there 3 times. Go to the theater for their bi-monthly Throwback Thursday movie marathon. The Godfather, Gone with the Wind, right? Pathetic thriller. So you can take out individual phrases that are all totally natural, and you can use this to drill sounds, to work on sounds. This is what I mean. It's like the language itself is enough of a tongue twister for language learners. We don't have to go out of our way to make it more difficult than it has to be. I think that is my main point with all of this. Okay, so that's it. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments. In my next video, I'm actually going to be doing tongue twisters because I just thought, hey, it would be super fun to do them to show you how difficult they are and we can laugh together. You can try them with me, and I'm not going to be perfect at them. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to teach you pronunciation with these tongue twisters. No, we're just going to do it for fun. So that's what we will do in the next video. So if you are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, turn on the notifications so you don't miss any classes with me, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.